Morning all. As we get, it seems closer and closer to, I don't know, what would you call it, an inflection point, um, an event horizon, whatever that is, um, at least something that is going to happen, a crossing of the Rubicon that we're probably going to do. Um, it seems that the time for talking is going to pass. It's probably passed already, to be fair. I keep talking just because I'm a gobshite and can't shut up, but we continue to watch the videos and listen to the podcasts telling us what the problems are. But we know what the problems are now. We know what the issues are. And we do, if we're truthful with ourselves, we do know what needs to be done. And there are certain things that need to be done which are completely above board and totally illegal, which we can engage in, and we should. And then there are things that are less so. Things that have to take place below the surface for all sorts of reasons, none of which I have to explain to you. But then there are other things, and I'm not the best person to promote these things. But I think it's true that we do have to work on ourselves, and I'm trying to work on myself the best I can. Um, how to maintain one's health and life and positive mental attitude and all that kind of stuff, which, 1,000 other people will be far better advised uh, to tell you about. But I'm going to go back to another little hobby horse of mine, which is far more important than people appreciate. Now, I believe, and I think the evidence is with me, that the thing that has caused this country's decline more than anything else is something that most people don't really think about. There's the mass immigration, and there's the oh wow, I've just seen a kestrel or something just take some prey off the field. How about that? Wow, that's worth coming out here, isn't it? Um, of course, the treachery of politicians. Um, all this stuff is it, all this stuff adds to it. But I think the thing that is at least the most important thing that nobody ever acknowledges, but maybe the most important thing of all, is our deindustrialization. We have deindustrialized faster and to a greater extent than any other developed country. And people think that that doesn't matter. And on the face of it, it doesn't seem to matter. If we, don't have British stuff, we can just buy foreign stuff. And it seems as if that there's no downside to that. But there is a downside to it, and it's profound. And if we just take the obvious example of cars, I'll bet nearly all of you have a foreign car. And, I don't blame you for that, because it's almost impossible to buy a British car now. But what that does is it feeds into your subconscious, because every time you go outside, cars are the most obvious manufactured good that we see out and about all the time. Cars are everywhere, uh, even in the deepest countryside. The deepest, quietest lane, then you see a car coming along, and it's a Volvo or a BMW or a Toyota or something. And it gets into our psyche. And what it says, what it tells us, whether we acknowledge it or not, it tells us that we can't make anything anymore. And then it goes deeper than that, because then it tells us that we're not capable of making anything anymore, or even of doing anything anymore. And as I've said before, culture isn't just Shakespeare and old buildings. It's the stuff that we make. And, this country has a very high profile internationally, and one that it's been riding on for a long, long time. The legacy of that. I mean, it's often said that they do a survey of a soft power survey, and in addition to its hard power, the United States nearly always comes up on top. But we often come, most of the time, we come in second. And soft power is something that is beloved of our ruling class. They think because we've got Harry Potter and pop music that we have influence. And if you compare us with a country like Germany, its soft power, which is in the top 10 always, is there because of its hard power, because of the things it makes. And Germans traditionally, because of their history, because of the Second World War, because of the Nazis, they don't make much of their culture because they've been made to feel ashamed of it. So they don't make much of it, and what they do is they make things, and we all buy them. Now Germany's fallen into the woke immigrants are better, and um, we must have net zero and blow up all our power stations, just the same as we have recently. But assuming that they don't completely trash their industrial heritage and their industrial capacity, as they've been doing so over the last 5 years, that has kept them fed and watered for all this time, since they emerged from the ashes of World War II. But we've let our industries just wither on the vine, thinking that financial services will do everything. But it quite obviously doesn't do everything, because we're not prosperous, and we're a damn sight less prosperous than we used to be. And we must reindustrialise. And part of that, and of course I'm in no position to dictate Britain's industrial policy, but what we can all do is we can start trying to buy British stuff, and that's not easy. I was in someone's house the other day, and they got us to fit um, these little old-fashioned style light switches, the kind of Bakelite ones. And it was a very, very niche thing, old-fashioned light switches. Most people don't bother, and then you have the white plastic ones most people have, and then if you want something a bit fancy, you have the ones that are the same shape but chrome or whatever metal finish they have on them. But these ones were deliberately made to look old, as if they're from the 1930s. So a really, really niche thing. And, I don't know what the old-fashioned light switches were like in other countries. But um, but these were deliberately old-fashioned British light switches. And I looked at the box, made in China. I even came across a pack of toothpicks the other, toothpicks made in China. Now, reindustrializing won't be easy, but compared to mass deportations, it's a piece of piss. Now, I know people aren't very interested in this stuff, but they ought to be. George Orwell once said, it's people doing the dull jobs that make a country strong. And he was right. The dull jobs of being on a production line. Something I've never done. Yeah, and doing the same thing repeatedly over and over again. On its own, it's not very inspiring. But at least you can say you've built something. At least you can say that. Because I know it doesn't seem like it, but being able to make our own stuff may be one of the ways in which we can stay free.